Hello, and thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update, brought to you by Ag Carolina Farm Credit. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I'm a Senior Atmospheric Scientist and co-founder of Agrible Incorporated, and I serve as the Director for Undergraduate Studies in Atmospheric Science at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. I thought we'd do a quick forecast verification. We were talking last week about this front that was going to be draping basically to the south, right in through this area, and all along it we were going to be bringing in the chances for quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. We can see in the parts of North Carolina here, we did bring some precipitation into some regions that desperately needed it. But along with that front, we had some pretty strong wind shear, a destabilized atmosphere. We even saw quite a large number here of severe weather reports in parts of North and South Carolina, most of those being wind reports. So we needed the rain in some locations, but we certainly didn't need that severe weather. So let's talk about recent precipitation. Map on the left shows you the last 30 days of precipitation expressed as a percent of normal, and the map on the right shows you just the last 14 days. You know, one of the things we've been discussing is that parts of the interior of North Carolina over the last 30 days or so have been looking pretty dry. Overall, we've been kind of missing the diurnal convection, those daily thunderstorms in this region, and we haven't had too much in the way of some big weather systems going through. Well, when we look over the last 14 days, we can see some pockets of heavier rain in the Carolinas here, and certainly the last couple of days brought quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. But it's really now been a transition over the last half of a month where we've really seen getting up into this coastal region I'm kind of outlining right here, which would be parts of North Carolina, of course, but then getting into parts of Virginia, Maryland, kind of getting up the East Coast here that have been dry. So it's important to see that as we move forward as to where the recent precipitation has been and where it hasn't, as we try to assess, the health of the crop and what we've been getting, from the sky in terms of rainfall. Now, big factors we have to deal with in terms of rainfall this year would, of course, be tropical systems. And earlier in the week, last week, we saw the emergence of a tropical depression that rapidly intensified to become our second named system of the year. Beryl became Hurricane Beryl. Now, the thing about this particular hurricane is as it moved toward the Lesser Antilles, which are right here, it encountered some really, really strong wind shear. And that's what's shown to you over here in this graph. I've been telling you that wind shear can rip hurricanes apart and weaken them. Well, when we like to look at these maps that show us wind shear tendency, and basically the Beryl went right into an area that was too high wind shear and kind of cut it up a little bit, and therefore it's kind of died off. So right now this is not going to be a hurricane or even a tropical system that we should be discussing much in the short term. The one we have to be discussing though is Chris. Currently Tropical Storm Chris is right now off the coast, off the Carolina coast, and is forecast to be kind of moving toward the north and east. And one of the big helpers with that is seen over in this water vapor image. Now, when you look at this is all of the moisture Chris is kind of throwing up deep into the atmosphere. But as we talked about, some drier air has moved into the Carolinas here, and Chris is trying to basically eat that, ingest it, bring it in. And that's what's going to help. That and the circulation in the atmosphere is going to help keep Chris off of the, out of the way of North and South Carolina and off the coast. Now, this doesn't mean that the Outer Banks won't be seeing some precipitation out of this, certainly some cloud cover, but overall, Chris is not going to be a main threat to the Carolina coast. All right, just to kind of show you what we're looking at in terms of total accumulated precipitation out of Chris moving forward, we can see here that over the next several days, this is what the total accumulated precipitation looks like, at least through Wednesday. So just kind of get it right here toward the end. You can see that only the Outer Banks here are going to be dealing with precipitation. Now, what's interesting about this is we also see that the model's really not picking up on much of a chance of precipitation Monday through Tuesday. So let's talk about why that is. First 7 days of the month, we can see here that much of North Carolina has continued to rapidly accumulate growing degree day units because we've been above average in temperatures, and we're going to have to be talking about what those temperatures are going to do here. So let's take a look. Monday, where do we have our main features? Well, there will be an area of higher atmospheric pressure sitting here over the Carolinas and over Virginia. And with that, we have some drier air. See, this is a map of dew point temperature. We're going to be seeing dew point temperatures in the middle of the afternoon that are going to be far below 70 degrees. So that's going to be some very comfortable air. We also have to pay attention to this cold front that's right now draped across the Corn Belt, because it's that cold front that's going to move to the south that could be impacting, our North and South Carolina weather middle of the week. So to start things off, because of the presence of this high pressure center and some cloud cover from Chris, we're going to be seeing temperatures in the Carolinas in the upper 80s, maybe getting into the lower 90s on Monday. Now by Tuesday, we're going to be actually seeing some much warmer conditions as skies are clearing out and the sun can kind of beat down there. Still, relatively drier air compared to what we normally have this time of year. That cold front still trying to advance to the south will be bringing some precipitation to the Corn Belt, but we got to wait until that cold front gets farther to south on Wednesday before we start to see the chances of precipitation in North Carolina. But again, by the time we get into Tuesday, we do see some warmer conditions coming back into the region again, under some clearer skies, but drier conditions overall. Wednesday, that front finally drapes far enough to the south that it could serve as a trigger mechanism to be bringing in some storms. Again, we go into the 90s in terms of high temperatures, but with the moisture return in this area, with that first high pressure system off the coast, we will be bringing in the potential for some showers and storms into the Carolinas. But overall, the beginning of this week is relatively dry. What are our temperatures doing Thursday through Saturday? Well, we're really going to be seeing here along the East Coast temperatures in the upper 80s, lower 90s every single day. Most of the big time heat stays in the Central Plains under a new ridge that forms in that area. In terms of our overnight lows, we'll see our overnight lows rebounding back into the 70s across much of the Carolinas. So we're going to kind of enjoy this drier weather, the drier and the cooler overnight lows for a couple of days here before we get back into a more normal summer pattern. All right. Monday through Friday, total accumulated precipitation. We're going to, again, have to wait until that front kind of drapes south into this area before we start to see the chances for showers and storms Wednesday into Thursday into this region. And again, Chris stays off the coast, maybe only coastal regions here, maybe the Outer Banks getting some precipitation from Chris. So overall, dry start to the week, maybe some storms midweek, and then temperatures rebound as we continue on throughout the week. In terms of looking at total accumulated precipitation over the next 10 days expressed as a percent of normal, we can actually see that the longer range European model is picking up on a bit of a drier bias. In fact, it's picking up on a drier bias in a big section east of the Rocky Mountains here. And so we're going to have to watch this carefully moving forward in the forecast just to see what this does in terms of setting up the jet stream for potentially bringing in more heat and some drier conditions. We'll have to watch it very carefully. Now, where I do have some confusion and where I have to kind of tell you, this is where our models are really breaking down, is that we've got pretty good multi-model support through the next 5 days in terms of our weather, but beyond day 5, models are really not doing a very good job at all at picking up on the pattern or agreeing with one another. So this is just a time of year where we have poor model agreement, which makes doing the weather forecast beyond about 7 days quite difficult. That's why Ag Carolina hasn't been giving you these forecasts every 7 days to kind of keep you up to date with the best model forecast we have. Well, what's the discrepancy? Well, you've been looking at it here. The U.S. model, which is over here on the left, wants to dig a pretty deep trough into the North Central Plains. If that happens, it brings in a really deep low here, which drags a big cold front through the middle part of the country. Now, why is that significant? Well, that cold front could push all the way over to the Carolinas because of the depth of this system. On the flip side of things, the European model doesn't want to do that. It wants to keep a broad trough over the Hudson Bay. That keeps a front that kind of stalls out here across the Corn Belt, and we end up getting quite a bit of moisture return here over the southeast, which brings us back into that diurnal pattern of showers and thunderstorms. Now, in either case, I think we're going to be seeing those diurnal, those day-night thunderstorm activity across the Carolinas. But the ECMWF model would support a warmer and would also support a more active pattern in terms of thunderstorm activity getting into the start of next week. So we'll have to get a good update of that getting into next week. What's the overall pattern doing? Well, check this out. This is an animation of the upper level of the atmosphere. So we're looking at troughs and ridges here moving forward all the way out through, the third week of July. And what we see overall is that the models really want to take the main ridge and push it pretty far out to the east. Now, I've been saying I would much rather have that, and I think everybody in the Carolinas would too, than having a big ridge right here. You see a ridge in that region I just drew right over here. If it did form, would shut down the moisture, bring in the heat, and cause major problems. Instead, our ridge looks to be forming out here out west. Now, you might be saying, well, does that bring a trough through here and keep us cool? It does not. Overall, while it does have a general trough pattern, we're going to be seeing temperatures here be very reflective of normal summer-like weather. And that's why when we kind of look here at the NOAA and the Climate Prediction Center's forecast for the next 6 to 10 days on the left and then 8 to 14 days on the right, they are tending to keep much of the eastern half of the country with at or above average temperatures. So that's a flow pattern we expect to kind of continue throughout much of the month of July. So we're going to have to be prepared for some, a lot of high temperatures in the 90s. If the Gulf of Mexico opens up, though, we get those diurnal thunderstorms, and then we don't really slide too deep in any sort of drought situation. But it's just something that I want you to know that I'll be watching very, very closely, because that's our biggest concern for summer for ag in the Carolinas. That would be the development of drought. So I'll keep a close eye on it for you, give you those longer range updates when they come out to me from our big global models, which should be out in our next forecast update. So until then, we at Ag Carolina, thank you for watching. Hope you look forward to the next update coming out next Monday. Thank you.